Hi guys, welcome to this technique analysis of how Muslim Salikhov beat Nordine Taleb during UFC 242. I'm going to cover this one quickly. There's not that much to say about it, but it's a good example of some fundamentals. So here we go. Several things. One of the things that we see here is that you see that Taleb was just walking over towards the right side of Salikhov. One of the things that you can also see is that what he likes to do is cross his legs. So that is not in and of itself the worst possible thing, but it is kind of tricky if you're doing it from relatively close range, which was the case here. So that is one of the pieces of why the setup worked so well for that big right hand. Now, the second thing that if you watch the fight, you'll notice that Taleb kind of keeps his head up pretty high as opposed to keeping it slightly tucked in. So that makes it a little bit easier to launch and land that big overhand right, which Salikhov actually tried a little bit earlier in the round. And he landed it, didn't land full, but that was as a counter to a jab from Taleb. He launched the overhand and he got there. So I'm guessing he filed that away for further notice and then used it in this example here. So what do we have? Taleb is stepping to the right, and then the next thing that happens is that you will see that here Salikhov is slightly bracing. He's lowering his center of gravity just a little bit. And you don't see it in this image, but he actually takes a step forward. So he's bouncing his weight into his back leg so he can just very quickly accelerate forward into that shot. Now, I'm going to go back one frame. I want you to watch a critical point here. Watch the hands. So that left hand is already pretty low. That makes an open path towards the target. Now, we're here. So this is the first moment that Taleb can actually see that something's going to come, pretty much rocketing towards his face. And you spot his reaction. So once again, his head is really high. His chin is really vulnerable in this position. So it's not like he's tucking in or defending a lot as he spots that attack coming at him. Going a little bit forward towards the next frame, and this is where the overhand is launched. You'll see that Salikhov just puts a lot of power into that reaction, into that technique, sorry, and he's leaning slightly forward. Again, rewatch the event and you'll see that he takes a step forward with his left foot and he leans forward a little bit, so his body is upright and he leans forward into it so he can launch that big overhand right. That adds a little bit of reach to that overhand right and makes it a little bit easier for him. And again, don't forget that we saw that Taleb was using that cross-leg position, and that is one of the reasons why it's so difficult to block a punch like that, because if you cross your legs, let's say right leg in front of the left, you first will have to step to the side with your left leg before you can brace for impact or pretty much change course. And Salikhov kind of timed this pretty well here. So this is the start of that overhand. So it's coming in at this angle here. Once again, notice the hands. So the hand was here, and now he picks it up, and that right hand is over here. Now this is all fractions of seconds, but let's see what happens next. So you see that the next point here is when just about to land that right overhand. So we're almost there. Now I want you to see this here. This is a position of the left hand of Taleb, and this is the right hand. So what he did is from here extend his left hand in some sort of half parry, half guarding kind of thing, and his right arm was all the way down here. Now, one of the things that you can notice if you watch the entire fight, you'll see that Taleb's hand movement is kind of erratic. He has a little bit of an awkward way of moving his hands, and a little bit before this knockout punch came, Salikhov threw a right shot to the body, and you could see that Taleb then used his left hand to do this kind of downward parry with it to clear the technique. Now, if you react with a downward parry against the right straight shot, that instinctively leaves you open to an overhand right because you're lowering your left hand. And especially in the case here, as is with Taleb with his chin up high, that's feeling very vulnerable. So my guess is that Salikhov actually saw this and then said, okay, I'm going to go for the overhand right again. And my point here, and this is one of the takeaways, is that you have to rewatch in slow motion to see what Taleb does. But this movement here that he does, it doesn't matter what Salikhov threw from that right side, whether it's a right hand, whether it's a right kick. it doesn't matter which technique he throws. The main thing is that look at the hand position of Taleb. Anything that is coming in from that right hand of Salikhov, he's not blocking it. He's not blocking anything. So he made this really awkward movement with his hands that wouldn't have stopped anything, even if he guessed correctly what it would have been. In this case, he's just reaching when he shouldn't have reached. He should have covered up and protected against that overhand. Now, this is something that is still common in MMA. Not every fighter does it, but still, in my opinion, way too many fighters do that. And as in contrast, I want you to look when you sort of fight between Edson Barboza and Paul Felder, look at a different way of blocking. Look how Felder, in particular, blocked, for instance, the kicks from Barboza. You'll see that he does a double block and he keeps it tight. So there are reasons sometimes why you reach for an attack to block, parry, or whatever, but they are less common than you would think because they leave you vulnerable, they leave you open. So that is why Taleb got hit, and we'll get to the next frame. And this is the moment of impact, so you can see that, I mean, this is just crushing into his face, and it's just a perfect shot. And once again, notice this arm position here. He's totally out of alignment with his arms. His hands aren't doing anything that could be seen as productive. Hands over here, right hands down here. It wouldn't have stopped anything. A high kick, a body kick, it wouldn't have stopped anything. Even a punch to the body, it wouldn't have stopped that one. So I think that's a mistake from on Taleb's part. Sure, he didn't mean to do that, but that's what we saw happen. So if you guys are sparring or training, try to avoid this kind of reaction. And then obviously there was a follow through, so that he lands a shot, and then you can see Taleb go down. The guy was hit pretty hard, he was wobbly, and obviously he's totally out of it right here. He's counting stars. You can see the look in his face. He's just not there for that moment. And Salikhov stepped in. He almost hit him one more time while he's on the ground, but he chose not to, and then the referee stepped in. So what's the point? The point is that, and I'm going to bring it back to the very beginning, and what you'll see is do not step to the side when you are in kicking range of your opponent. Now, if you watch the fight again, you'll see that all that Salikhov had to do was take a step forward, a small step, and then throw the overhand right. Taleb is just very calmly crossing his legs and stepping off to the side while he's in kicking range. He wasn't in punching range, he was in kicking range. Kicking range is range. If you are in range of your opponent, either you are getting out of there or you should be attacking your opponent. That is basic strategy. And I think this is where Taleb actually made the mistake of staying way too close and then just having an awkward reaction to the punch. And that then resulted in him getting knocked out. That's it. I've got more videos coming up. In the meantime, if you guys want to see some more, just follow me on Facebook. You see the link, facebook.com/MMA Formula. And I'll talk to you guys next time.